Hello and welcome to this Dawn Busters Taste Challenge. It's 5:37 a.m. Central Daylight Time. Would have come on 2 minutes ago, but couldn't get the window to open, which is a common problem with Microsoft Edge. It just won't open. You got to keep clicking it, and then eventually it will. Got a lot of bugs in that system. Last night, for instance, it wouldn't work at all. They kept saying, something was wrong with our website. Microsoft, something's wrong with it, won't work. I checked this morning and it's working again. Obviously, I'm using that, but I would rather use Firefox, but Firefox always gives me the same message that they no longer support Hangouts, Google Hangouts. Anyway, this morning we have McCormick Special Reserve American Blended Whiskey Distillery, Halliday Distilling, founded 1856, Missouri, versus Heaven Hill, Kentucky blended whiskey. Heaven Hill's been around for a long time, since about 1934. Okay. They're both 80 proof. They're both aged 3 years. The difference is this is Kentucky blended whiskey. That means it's distilled in Kentucky, blended in Kentucky, bottled in Kentucky, okay? And interestingly, and they're both blended at an 80-20 ratio, okay? 80% grain neutral spirits to 20% straight whiskey. Now, but the Heaven Hill gives you a little more information. It's their #1 Kentucky blended whiskey, this one, Heaven Hill. They make a lot of them, mini blended whiskeys, like the Kentucky Gold that I have a bottle of. There's another one called Quality House and so on, but this is their #1, their namesake brand. They say the straight whiskey here is distilled according to the sour mash process. Okay. So I think the sour mash whiskey is going to make it taste a little different than this, which doesn't make that claim. And it only says here selected and bottled by McCormick's. So they're bottling it. They're selecting it and then they're bottling it. Where are they selecting it from? My guess would be Midwest Grain Products of Kansas. This I don't know, but I would assume, because where else are they going to get it from? So they're buying the whiskeys and the corn distillate. They're bottling it. It's probably pre-blended before it gets to this place, and then it's bottled there. Because it doesn't say blended there, it just said bottled. This one says mild and mellow. HH, Heaven Hill. Blended and bottled by Heaven Hill, Bardstown, Nelson County, Kentucky. But it has to be distilled in Kentucky because it's saying Kentucky whiskey. And if it says Kentucky whiskey, if you read the Tax and Trade Bureau website, United States government website, that is telling you where it's distilled. It has to say that on a bottle label. It's not an option. I guess I have enough left. Just enough left to go up against Kentucky Gold, but only barely enough. There's a little exercise on, if you get on the Tax and Trade Bureau website, they have like a little worksheet. You know, like when you were in elementary school, they had worksheets, and it's like fill out your own practice label, and it gives you a little thing you can do, like make up a name, and then and it shows what has to be on there. It's interesting. And then they go through what makes different types of whiskeys or brandy or gin. It just goes through the whole thing. And so these are in the category called blended whiskey, okay? Meaning it has to be at least 20% straight whiskey. It cannot be less than that. That's the minimum. It can be more. You know, like Seagram's is 25% straight whiskey. And some are even higher, 27 and 0.5, whatever. But if it goes below 20%, then it's in a different class called spirit whiskey. Like Rebecca Creek Spirit Whiskey, the Spirit of Texas, and Southern Comfort. You've probably heard of Southern Comfort, the spiced whiskeys. Those are spirit whiskey. And then you have straight whiskey, which is pure whiskey, no unaged corn distillate. But to be straight whiskey, it has to be aged 2 years, right? Then you got corn whiskey, and then straight corn whiskey has to be aged 2 years in uncharred barrels. Corn whiskey is the same as bourbon, yeah. Except that bourbon is put into a charred, new, never before used, new charred oak barrel, and then the corn whiskey straight would have to be uncharred barrel. So it's going to make it look a lot different. Oh, well, I mean, there's so many categories. You go through the Tax and Trade Bureau website, they must have, it must be 20 different categories. Then you have blended bourbon whiskey, straight bourbon whiskey, just plain bourbon whiskey, which does not have to be aged any particular amount of time. And then we got into the whole controversy last year, you remember, about Jack Daniels, is it a bourbon? And William had said this 2 years ago. Yes, it very clearly is a bourbon. They simply choose not to call it that. And I've had people over the years tell me, well, you know, it's charcoal mellowed, so that means it's not a bourbon. The filtering is irrelevant, okay? That would mean half the bourbons aren't bourbon, or a good deal of bourbons aren't. If the charcoal mellowing had anything to do with it, then Evan Williams' green label would not be bourbon because it's charcoal mellowed. Or they say on the label, they use the term filtered. It's dripped through charcoal after it comes out the barrel. So obviously it's still a bourbon, correct? Now you might say, no, but the Lincoln County process, it's done before it goes in the barrel. That's irrelevant. That's just what they choose to do. Get on the Tax and Trade Bureau website and you will notice there is absolutely no mention of filtering either way as it regards bourbon. Now, as far as these are concerned, blended whiskey, filtered, unfiltered, charcoal, no charcoal, it doesn't matter. It is not germane to the topic, okay? That is not a requirement. It's an option, has nothing to do with the class category. And it's not because I'm just so smart. It's because I read the Tax and Trade Bureau regulations. Just read the guidelines. They're very clear, except as it concerns Scotch and Canadian whiskey and Irish whiskey. They're not clear there because of the added coloring or flavorings. There's a conflict because in America, you're not allowed to have that coloring or flavoring added to Scotch. But in Scotland, you are. But the regulations are given preference to the Scottish rules. So in other words, Scotch whiskey is imported under the rules of Scotland, not under the rules of the United States. Okay, well, we're not on Scotch though, are we? We're on blended whiskey. So they're both amber, and I don't see a difference in the shade, to tell you the truth. They're both clear. Leaving alcohol eggs. This one on my left, in my left hand, your right, is leaving a little more of those fence boards on the legs, you know, the fence boards. All right, a wooden fence. This smells like sourdough bread. I couldn't think of the name of that. So I think that's Heaven Hill. Now that's how fast I got it, if I've gotten it correct. You know, McCormick has been tricking me up, tripping me up. This one does not smell like sourdough bread, however. It smells like just regular old alcohol, corn-based alcohol, grain-based alcohol, which is to a large extent neutral in its aroma, which is the character of McCormick, not to mention a whole lot of other blended whiskeys. Why are they so inexpensive? Because they're using 80% or less, but usually 80% unaged corn distillate grain neutral spirits. Time is money. So when they're aging the whiskey, it takes up time and space, which costs money. But if they just distill it, cut it, prep it, and sell it, that saves time. And therefore that saves money because it's not aged. It has to be stored in wooden barrels. Stored, not the same as aging, because it might only be stored for days till it gets to the rectifying plant and is made into the blended, or treated with juniper berries and botanicals and made into gin, or filtered and then filtered again and then filtered again down into vodka, and or used as a base to make liqueurs. Okay, it's a very versatile product, the corn distillate in America. In Europe, they mainly use brandy for those reasons. And also in the United States, many brandies are used. Okay. Also, these are allowed to have up to 2% blending sherry to give it little tweaks of flavor. Little sweetness, like sweet corn, and then a whole lot of just like neutral, bland alcohol. Heaven Hill stands out in its nothingness. You know what I'm saying? People can get this Heaven Hill around here for $6.19 a bottle plus tax. I believe that's the cheapest you can get any whiskey in this parish. Now, you can save 20 cents by going to St. Bernard Parish and getting McCormick. You can spend $4 in gas to go to St. Bernard Parish and save 20 cents. Some people actually do those kind of things. All right. Same thing, except there's a little underlying fleeting glimpse of almost a white wine thing. And I put that notion in my brain with talking about blending sherry wine, but it does seem to have that little touch, just a flash, but it's there. And I think that could be the sherry coming out, but it's so small of a percentage, 2% or less, but probably up to 2%, right? They're probably using up to 2% just to give it some kind of flavor. But honestly, neither one of these have any kind of real I don't want to say good flavor, intricate or worthwhile flavor. In other words, are these products worthwhile? They're worthwhile in the sense that, yeah, you could pay $6 a bottle and use them for mixed drinks. And one would imagine that is 99% of the purchases. Why are people buying this at racetrack gas station in the big plastic bottles, the glass 750s, the plastic 375s, or the glass liter bottles, the plastic 200 milliliter, the plastic 100 milliliter? Why are they buying that? Because they're going to mix it with Coke or Sprite or RC Cola or fruit, you know, Delaware Punch, you know, that drink, or Hawaiian Punch. You know, that's what they're doing, and they're going to drink it. That is the purpose of it. Do I do that? No, I don't, because I don't like mixed drinks. Am I opposed to it? I'm certainly not opposed to people drinking what they enjoy drinking. That would be madness. You can go to Walmart and buy pre-mixed. For instance, Seagram's Gin and Juice series. It's lower proof. What are they? 70 proof? Yeah, because they are mixing it with basically punch. Lemon lime, fruit punch flavor. I mean, I don't like those kind of things, but people love it. Have you ever thought about opening up your own bar or something? Says Jornek. No, I've never thought of doing that. It sounds like a big hassle to me, you know, like a real pain in the earlobe. I just don't want to do it. But, you know, many people have that dream. Archie Bunker did. Okay. Sam had that dream. If I did open a bar, I'd probably call it the Four Winds Bar. Okay. Which is which? Now, which one's better? It's a tie because neither one of them is what you'd call good. They're just low grade. Oh, yeah, I've done videos where I kind of talk that they were okay. And I guess they're okay. Good. Good. If I was going to say which blended whiskey is good, it wouldn't be these two. It would be Seagram 7 Crown. I don't think either one of these can hold a candle to Seagram 7 Crown. I think Seagram 7 Crown is much better. It just tastes like it's higher quality ingredients all around the bases, all around the base path. It just, yeah, I know it's $11.99 a bottle on sale, but it gives so much more. These give you what you want as far as 80 proof, you know, 40% alcohol. But as far as flavor and enjoyment, I don't see it. And it seems like the more I drink these things, the less I appreciate them. But that's what you do. You drink through it and you try to think about them and discover things. And sometimes what you discover isn't good. But that's okay. Roscoe says, one of your long road trips, did you ever get stranded? No. But one time the car caught on fire, but we put the fire out with store brand soft drinks. We shook the cans and made like little fire extinguishers. Psh, true story. It was a Plymouth. Maxwell, hello, Ron. Glad to see you. How are you? I'm fine. I woke up very early. Here we are seeing the daylight arriving. It's a full daylight now. Be watching the news in 5 minutes. We have a tropical storm in the Gulf, but it's a subtropical storm. I don't think it's much of anything. They're making it sound, well, they do that. You know, it's the news. After Katrina, they always go overboard because they want people to be alert. But too much alert, and then you don't hear the alert. You know what I mean? I picked up a little bit of the sherry there on that last sip. So, okay. You notice I didn't say either one of these were bad. I just said they weren't good. So what does that mean? Well, you know, a C, right? Average. You take a test. You didn't do bad on the test, but your score is not good because you made 75 out of 100. That's not good. You didn't know 25% of the questions. Oh, you'll pass. You just don't know it very well. but that's okay. You're not required to know it very well. Just enough to pass, right? And you could even do bad and pass, make a D and pass. Okay. A D beer or a D liquor or a D wine means it's a bad wine, beer, or liquor. It's bad. It's not enjoyable. It tastes bad, but you can drink it. It passes in that sense. You can actually drink it. If it's an F, you can't stomach it. You cannot. You'll be sick. It's that bad. Have I had something like that? Yes. It's very rare, but it's happened, especially with wine and beer that has been rancid. Rancid beer and rancid wine. I dumped the whole bottle down the sink. I took 2 sips and said, there's no way. Then I went to Dorgneck's and told them that the wine was rancid. And what did they tell me? Well, a lot of people cook with that. Now, think about that statement. What does the fact that people cook with, what was it, a Madeira wine? What does that have to do with the fact that it was rancid, that people cook with it? I've drank Taylor Madeira, and I know people cook with it, but it wasn't rancid. All right. I think this is the Heaven Hill, and I think that was the McCormick. I don't know. Let's check the label in these last 2 minutes. Well, I was wrong. Once again, McCormick is tripping me up. Is that a sign that it's a really good whiskey? No, it's a sign that it's just like the rest. It's so ordinary. They all blend together. They don't taste any different. You could take all these blended whiskeys, blend them all together, and then put it in a taste challenge against ones that aren't blended all together, and you probably wouldn't be able to tell them apart. That's how ordinary they are. That's why they're all about the same price. That's why they're all regarded in the same manner. It's something to buy, mix with Coke, and drink it. Now, is there anything wrong with that? No, there's nothing wrong with it. Are we going to make them out to be more than they are? Certainly we are not. They're at the bottom shelf. They're $7 a bottle, $6 a bottle for that very reason. They're inexpensive, or if you want to use the word cheap. They're not super high quality. They're what you would call a serviceable product, and they exist perfectly in that area. On the other hand, you have beers like Rockdale Classic, Rockdale Light, and Rockdale Ice, which are also cheap and inexpensive, but they are not even serviceable in my opinion. They're unpleasant to drink. They have no good qualities, really, when you think about it, and I would never buy those. So in my opinion, they're not serviceable. You just can't. I mean, you could drink them. They're a D, but you would hate it. So why would you buy it? You know, you're not going to make a mixed drink with beer. So in that case, they don't work. Anyway, this was a wash. I got it wrong. I'm not particularly surprised, except I did think the sour mash whiskey would make a slight difference, but in fact, it did not. So tomorrow I'm going to try to do McCormick, that little residual. I'll think about it. If it's too little, I won't do it. But maybe McCormick Special Reserve against Kentucky Gold. Thank you for watching this video production.